Today we're going to talk about vehicle tracking 2016. Vehicle tracking is a software, it's an add-on, it's available in use with all Autodesk software, so I can use this within AutoCAD, Civil 3D, even AutoCAD architecture. So it's something that's not just Civil 3D specific, but it is something that can be used in all Autodesk platforms. So I'm going to focus in on 4 key areas today: horizontal movement, vertical movement, parking layout, and roundabouts. Those are the 4 big features within vehicle tracking. At the end of the session, hopefully you'll have a better exposure to vehicle tracking. You'll understand the 4 concepts, the subsets of vehicle tracking, the business side of it, how the return on investment will help you, and then if there's any questions, we'll be able to answer those questions at the end. So let's go ahead and get started. Horizontal movement. There are 3 key areas within the horizontal movement. As you can see in my screen cap here, I have a red line which will actually represent the chassis outline. So that's where the 4 wheels will actually touch the ground. So I'll have an outline of where I'm actually making contact with the road. I also have a body outline, which is the green, which will show me, hey, where's that corner bumper at? Is something going to be a little bit wider? So depending on where your wheel wells is, and you may have a little bit wider, like we have in this turn, that the body actually goes farther than the wheels. And then I also have a difference between the forward and reverse. So I see the red and green when I'm going forward, but as I back up, it turns to a darker color. I still see the body and the chassis outlines, but they become darker. And so it's an easier way to signify if I'm going forward or backwards. Vertical clearance. First thing on a vertical clearance is you got to look at possibly the profile view of your vehicle. So like I did a little low bed vehicle here, and I see the overall body height 12 feet tall, but the minimum body ground clearance in this thing is 4,200. So pretty short. I mean, it's about 5 inches off the ground. So if you're doing a vertical clearance, you got to know what's the minimum clearance. If you're going to do a clearance, we got to have a surface in there. So I have the ability, if you're using this in Civil 3D, to target a surface, whether it be a corridor surface, an existing ground surface, whatever surface you need to do. Maybe you've pasted it in an overall surface, so you've completed your surface. So I at least still have the ability to assign a surface in here for vertical clearance. And then once I've had those 2 things, well, mainly the surface is the key, and I've created a swept path analysis, I can run in and run a conflict report, and I can see that truck that I displayed earlier as it crosses over the highway or over the road, because the crown is running right down the middle, and I got wheels on one side of the crown, wheels on the other side of the crown. I can see that I have a clearance issue. Green is less than 1/10, yellow is from 1/10 to 2/10. And if it was worse, there would be a different color that would pop up. I have the ability to adjust that ratio. Maybe I want to know 500ths, and then 500ths to 1/10, and then something over 1/10. Right now, it's just these values are out of the box. So that's vertical clearance. Profile view, target surface, and conflict report. Parking layout. The third option. Key areas with parking layout is I can do stalls. So I can come in and I can display stalls. I can number my stalls. So I can come in and say, hey, this is stall number 1, and then on the other end, it's the last stall. So there's stall 9. So stall layout. I have the ability to edit the stalls, so I can have perpendicular lined up nose to nose. I can do like a herringbone. I can do single lane, offset, angle parking. So that's that one right over here. Down at the bottom, I have, do I want a footpath? So is there going to be a walking area in front of the cars? Do I need an island at the start of my parking lot or my stalls? Do I need one anytime I put a bend in? Do I need one at the end? So I have the abilities to add no parking areas, basically islands, footpaths, anytime that you want like an island in there, but there is no technically curb, it's just going to be paint. So the editing of a parking lot. And then there's parking standards within the parking lot layout. And the key on this one, as you can see, we have a whole bunch. And here I'm going to emphasize 3, is the in-bay numbering. Right now I can number the first bay and then the last bay. And if I wanted to number each of them, I can actually do intermediate bays. My preference is to only do last bay. The next one is the bay dimensions. So depending on if I have a large car with 90-degree parking, I have a width of 9 feet, length of 18 feet. But if it's 75 degrees, so it's like angle parking, my length is a little bit shorter. And then it gets shorter depending on how big the angle parking is. So you have the ability to make adjustments to these values here. So maybe I want a large car and I want 10-foot widths, but I want 20-foot depth. So we have a lot of oversized heavy-duty pickup trucks that are gonna work towards this. So the bay dimensions, and we saw that back in that editing screen. And when we pick a parking lot, we're gonna pick what size car and what service it is. And the service basically just specifies what width your drive lanes are. So can I get by with 15-foot lanes because I got angle parking? Yeah, because it's going to be a little bit easier to back out. But hey, if I got perpendicular parking, I'm going to need probably 25-foot drive lanes, so I'm able to back out and then make a better curve. So that's your bay dimensions. And then the last thing is, with the services, is there's 4 by default, and that's where you just set those. If it's a one-way, the width is 16.4. If it's two-way, it's 19.6. Well, you have the capability here of creating a new service type, and I created one for fun in another drawing, that it actually was parallel. So I put in a service type of P because I wanted to do parallel parking. Well, because it's parallel parking, I actually had it as one-way traffic, and I set it up as 14 feet because it was all I needed was that extra lane to go right next to it. So with parking layout, you have the stall layout capabilities. We'll get into some demos on that, how to edit, and then the parking standards. And within the parking standards, I emphasize these 3 tabs. Roundabouts, the last key item, subset of vehicle tracking. One of the major portions of roundabouts is the setup. I have the ability, when I create a roundabout in vehicle tracking, to have it automatically create alignments, profiles, and corridors. So if I'm using this in Civil 3D, it will build all that information for me. It streamlines, it speeds up my design, because I don't have to then take centerline and then turn it into an alignment and then build a new profile and then build the corridor. Everything gets done for me right away. So the key in this is the fact that it will build these objects for me and then update alignments, profiles, corridors. If I pick on an alignment when I choose it, it will update it for me automatically. Creation, when I create a roundabout, I have a bunch of options. I can create a drive lane, a approach. I can put striping in there. I can put center lines in there. I can put crosswalks in there. I can put islands in here. And obviously if I can add an island, I can delete an island. If I want to add a crosswalk, I can delete a crosswalk. So the creation in here is pretty easy, pretty straightforward. You don't need much. And then edit it. Once I put something in, I can actually come in and edit my roundabout, and I can see, hey, leg 1, here's my approach. I can change the design speed. How fast do we think we'll be taking that approach? The center gap, center line width. How many lanes are in this approach? 1, 2. Departing, how many? 1, 2. So I have for the approach, entries, exits, levels and grades. The splitter islands, crosswalks, rumble strips, speed striping, all that information I can make edits to. Civil 3D is like that. If you build something, it's very easy to edit it, make corrections, modify it, just in case you pick the wrong option. The roundabout option in vehicle tracking is the same way. I have the ability to make corrections if I didn't know the information at the beginning, but now I do, and now I want to enter it. I didn't have to wait until I got 100% of the information. So let's go ahead and jump into Civil 3D. And we're going to demonstrate horizontal movement right here. So I have a parking lot in here. It's a strip mall. And I want to look and see if I can get a 62-foot semi-truck to parallel park or back up into this loading dock. So what I want to do is I want to open up vehicle tracking, and I want to do auto drive arc. It loaded a library, and as you can see, I have a library with different countries, different vehicles. Up at the top, aircraft and support vehicles. So I can do commercial aircraft, helicopters, private. Down at the bottom, there's trams and rails. So now I can pick different railway vehicles. But I want to come down in here to US design vehicles. And I see vehicles specifically for California, Florida, Illinois, Indiana, Wisconsin, Tennessee. I didn't know that they were special and they got better vehicles than we did up here in Minnesota. But hey, they had vehicles out there specifically for their state. Well, I'm going to come into statewide AASHTO. So I'm going to use the federal and state highway. And then I see AASHTO 2011 US Imperial. And I'm going to open up and I see school buses, I see motorhomes, passenger cars, straight trucks, 30-foot straight truck, 40-foot straight truck. But lo and behold, there is a 62-foot semi-trailer. It gives me some information about it, how wide it is, the length, its turn radius. I'm going to use that 62-foot semi. So I'm going to go ahead and say proceed. Scale, one drawing, 1 unit equals 1 foot. I'm good with that, so I'll say okay. And now what it does is it wants me to place it. Well, I'm going to come in and I'm just going to start right here. And I'm going to give it an angle. So, right there. And it comes in and says you're going to use a semi-trailer. And I have some orientation, some views on here. I'm good with the defaults on here, so I'm going to go ahead and say proceed. And now what I can do is I can come in and I can just start clicking, and it will show me my turn radiuses as I'm going. So I can come in and I'm going to start right about here. And now I can come in and I can try to say, oh, I went a little bit too far, or I didn't go far enough, so let's go add another click in there. And now, oh, I still can't make it. So, oh, you know what? I'm going to erase that. And I'm going to start again using that trailer. And I'm going to place it. Proceed. And now instead of just manually eyeballing it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say pick alignment. What that pick alignment does is it allows me to pick a path that is parallel. So now I can come in and say, yep, right there. That's enough for me to get around that corner on the east side. And now I'll zoom up to here. And now I'll start backing up. And when I back up, I can say pick alignment. And I can pick one of my paint stripes. And it will allow me to drop my semi in with perfect parallel parking. So that's horizontal movement. I was able to come in and I could have backed my truck in a little bit differently. I can, with the right angle, I can get to this stall right here with the 62 footer. I need a 53 footer to get into that absolute first one, and that almost comes in, or I almost have to be almost perpendicular to it, or parallel to it as I come in. But another nice feature with using the alignment is they have what's called overturn. And what I can do is I can say, oh, I'm going to adjust my overturn just in case there was a little bit of movement. So it allows you to, like, if you're making a right-hand turn, right before you make that right-hand turn, you do a quick little jog over to the left and then come back. That's what the overturn does, especially in the entering the turn. It sends you out a little bit to the left before you make that right, or before the right you make that left. Another nice feature on this is the animate on here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open up 3D flyby camera, and I'm going to put the camera right behind the back of the truck. So put in 0, and we'll go height. We'll come up about 50 feet. And now what I'll say is I'll say play. And it'll speed it up a little bit. And I can see my vehicle make my corners. So I can make a video showing people, hey, look, here is a truck. It will make the corners as need be. And then I can switch to driver's eye. I should have done that ahead of time. But I can see what the driver looks like. And the best part about the driver's eye is when you start to back up, it will actually switch to a mirror mode. Oh, it was supposed to. And then you can get fancy with that, and you can add displays on the side of the truck. Say okay. Oops. Animate. And now on the side of my truck, it'll actually say CAD Technology Center. So you can put your company name on the truck, so it's a little more fancy in terms of being more unique to your company. So I'm going to go ahead and close out of that. Save note of the viewport. So that's horizontal in terms of backing up. I also have the capabilities of running a test in here, and I want to see in this test I have a dumpster right here. Am I going to be able to get a garbage truck through there? And if I open up my AASHTO codes, I see that there are no garbage trucks in here. So let me do a search for garbage trucks. Garbage. Oops. Garbage. Helps if you spell it right. And then there is a rear load garbage truck. So I'm going to proceed with that one. And I'm going to start them off right here. Get them going this way. Proceed. Get them to right about here. I'm going to use the alignment. And I'm going to pick that. Oops. And I'm going to see if he can fit right through here. And then back up into the truck. So I can see in this one, I'm going to cut the corner short here. And for me to back up, I'm going to end up going to those stalls. I'll pick on my path and I will widen my overturn a little bit. Move my, try not to move that much. Pull that out just a little bit more. And now I can see that I'll make it through the curb, but I'm still backing up into that garbage area, the dumpster area. I am going to end up taking out a couple stalls. So, hey, it's going to be really hard for me to fix that. We'll see if that helps with the echo and the feedback. It looked like we were picking up a little extra microphone from Nate's headset, so I just unplugged his. Hopefully that fixed it. But I can see horizontally now that my garbage truck will work, but it's going to take a little extra spot. So let's now talk about vertical. I have that straight truck in there. I can see horizontally it fixes things, but let's take a look to see if it's going to do the clearance. So the first thing I'd like to do is get a profile view of my truck. So I click profile view, click on my truck, and it will drop it in. And that's the truck that I had for my PowerPoint. And I can see that it's got a 4200s clearance. So about 5 inches. Next thing I'd like to do is to place an outline of my truck. So I can come in here, because I know vertically or horizontally it's going to work, but I want to say what's going to happen anywhere along the line. And so I can click and drop this anywhere I want along the path. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop it right where the front wheels are on one side of the crown, but my back wheels are on the other side of the crown. So I'm just going to drop a quick profile view right there. And now I'm going to run my report. And I'm going to say yes. And it's going to do some calculations, and it's going to come in and say, yep, you are going to interfere in this area due to the clearance. 5 inches, well, 2% crown, 3% crown, it's going to hit that crown, and you're going to have a clash. For that to happen, you have to come into your settings, and you need to set your units. Oops, cancel, wrong settings. And set your surface. So I pick what surface I want to use, and then it will come in and it will verify that for you. So if you're running it in Civil 3D, you use your FG surface from your quarter, and you're good to go. Parking lot layouts. Parking lot layouts work really nice because it handles things really easy. What I can do is I can come in and use my parking table tool here and pick standards. So I'll just use the standards US styles here. And say, okay, accept the settings. And here's my bay alignment. Perpendicular, herringbone, single, angle. Bay, do I want to do just left only, right only? In this case, it's going to start with default or both. Flow direction is two-way. The design vehicle class, bay angles, I'm able to set all that information up in here. So that was our like A, B, C, and D's. Do I want to add a start island, a bend island? In this case, in this one, no. Well, we'll add a bend island. No, we won't. No bend islands. No islands whatsoever. Islands are overrated. So we'll go ahead and we're going to pick start point, and I'm going to use my O snaps. I'm going to snap to the end point there. Then I'm going to come down here and snap to there. I'm going to hit enter, and as soon as I hit enter, I have an option to say, do I want my parking stalls just on the left side, just on the right side, or on both? Well, in this case, I only want it on the left-hand side. So I'm going to click just on the left. And with that, it only built half the stalls. Now what I can do is I can click, and I can say adjust to arc, and then snap to nearest. And say close. And I now have parking stalls for standard parking that are running along that line. I want to come in and I want to see how many stalls did I have. So I'm going to come into parking, parking standards, US parking, oops, pool, oops. Come on. Oops. Edit. And now the in-bay numbering tab. I want to say just last bay. I want to say apply. I want to say OK. I want to say OK. And where did it go? Oh, edit. In-bay numbering. Last bay with the number 2. Say apply. Say OK. All right, I screwed up. I'll add a new row. And I'll go from here to here. Drop that in just on the left-hand side. Oops. Accidentally put that in on both sides. New row. Add it. There, to there, enter. Nearest. Close. So I have that in. And if I just drew off another row, just off to the side here, once it's selected, I also have the ability to pick parallel roads. New roads, parallel row. And what it'll do is it will copy that directly down. So now I can line up my blue lines because that's my drive lane and then drop those in. And once it's in, I can adjust how many parking stalls I have in there. I can adjust the angles of my parking. So maybe I want angle parking. Or I can come in and I can actually say edit rows. And that pulls up my table. Well, I threw islands in here by mistake. So let's go ahead and just turn off end islands, start islands, and say apply, and say OK. And now my islands are gone. So I've gone through and I've done all these different types of parking stalls in here, I can generate a report, parking report, and it tells me that I have 164 stalls in here. All total, they're all normal stalls, 164. So that's fine. But let's go ahead and let's edit an individual stall. So I'm going to come in, pick one, and I'm going to pick on that one right there. And now instead of it being a normal stall, it's a disabled stall. So I say OK. And now I have a handicap stall in there. And now if I run my report, I now have 163 stalls, normal, 1 handicap. So I can see that, hey, I'm 0.6% handicap or disabled parking. There might be some specifications that you have to have at least 2% of all your parking has to be handicap related. Well, this tells me that I need at least probably 3 more stalls to get to 2%. And so once you put it in, you have the ability to adjust it. Angle parking, how far it actually starts, I can pull it back, I can rotate it, lengthen it. I can do a lot of information, a lot of things to it. I went in, like I said, I mentioned earlier, I went into the parking standards and I actually created a new service and I called it P, and I actually set my stalls set up for parallel parking. Because right now this is 10 foot wide, 18 foot deep. Well, I made a new service that actually allowed it to be 18, well, I went 22 feet wide, but only 12 feet deep. So I was able to do parallel parking through here. So by doing that with the new service, I was able to create parking stalls for, like I said, parallel parking. The fourth object that we have for the vehicle tracking is actually roundabouts, and for some reason I accidentally closed mine, so I'm going to actually open it up. And what I have are 2 alignments in here, and I'm going to create a new roundabout. And I'm going to come in US Junction, let's go Federal Highway, 2010, and we will do a rural double lane roundabout. Say proceed, say yes, accept the units, 1 unit equals 1 foot, say okay. Say okay. And it's asking me where do I want to put my roundabout. I don't need to put it right at the intersection of the 2 alignments. I can. I'm actually going to offset mine just a little bit. Clicked on it, it dropped it in, and it's now down at the command line saying select a line defining a new access road center line. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to pick my alignment there, and I'm going to call it northbound. And we'll just call it south. Say okay. And it put in the entrance for it. I'm going to come in and click this one. This one will be east. And I'll just click around north and then west. Created a corridor, a roundabout. But when I look at it, I don't have a surface, I don't have alignments in there. Junctions, corridors, create alignments. Say okay. Region all. If I want to delete out a road, I delete out the road. I'm trying to click on it. Delete road. Select the approach road to remove. Remove it. Remove it. Remove it. And then I can come back and I can add one. We'll put that back in. We'll just say okay. And say okay. Put them back in. And then rumble strips. Let's add some rumble strips to that one, to that one, and then to that one. And then again, the ability to edit a roundabout. Select the vehicle junction. I'm going to pick the center, the roundabout portion, and now I see my west leg, leg 2, because I didn't rename it, and leg 3. And now if I want to adjust the approach to the design speed of 25 miles an hour, it's going to increase how fast it can go. Lanes, let's make it 3 lanes. And with that, it created the corridor, it created the alignment, it created the profiles. So I can now take that and take it into Civil 3D. I can then adjust the profile, I can adjust the alignment, I can adjust the stationing of the regions within the corridor, and it will adjust everything. And the other nice new feature about it is when it becomes a corridor, if I do a horizontal path of the vehicle, it will actually recognize it as a roundabout, and when I pick the entrance lane, it will come in and we will pick a garbage truck in there. Say okay, and when I drop it in there, it already recognizes it as a lane, so I can then come in and say, yep, go to there. And that quickly, I can see that my garbage truck should have no problem getting through that roundabout. Now a 62-foot semi, hey, it might have a little bit of issue getting through that roundabout. With the horizontal swept path, it automatically knew which way I wanted to go. So that is the 4 main features of vehicle tracking: horizontal movement, vertical movement, parking stalls, and then roundabouts. There are some other tools in there that we didn't cover. We just wanted to get a quick general overview on the tools. Jump back in. So in summary, vehicle tracking is a comprehensive transportation analysis. It's a good design solution for swept path analysis. Very similar to AutoTurn. The subsets: vehicle movement, horizontal and vertical, the parking tools, the roundabouts, the vast library out there. There is a productivity pack for 2016 that has even more vehicles out there that you can add on. The benefits: I'm able to determine with my design, can a truck get to that loading dock? Can a garbage truck actually get to the dumpster area before they start putting curb in that parking lot? I can see it in preliminary uses. So the benefits, return on investment, you're going to see the cost, you're going to see designs fixed before it even becomes an issue. Like I said, it works in all AutoCAD environments, so just AutoCAD, AutoCAD architecture, civil, map, anything that runs on an AutoCAD platform. The speed in planning and design. Oh, 62-foot truck can't make it, let's change the radius of the curb, and then evaluate extra alternatives. So with that, I'll open up to questions. And I got a couple questions right now. Can animations be rendered and exported out as a video clip? I can jump out to there, vehicle tracking. When I am in animation mode, I do have the ability to play. Oops, let's see. Oh, I can watch my truck move right there really slow. And then when I say, whoops, I do have the ability to export it out as an animation. And we will say play. Close. And when I say close, save this viewport. If I say yes, it gets saved. Unbutton. Okay. And then, are there any windmill blade trucks? I haven't looked for them yet. I'm not going to say no, but I'm not going to say yes either, just for the fact that I haven't looked for it. But with the library, it is possible to build your own. And I actually had someone just come in that says, yes, there are windmill blade trucks. So thank you, Cody. So yes, Cody says that there are windmill blade trucks in the library. So let's just take a quick peek. I'm going to come in and I'm going to say windmill and search. And I'm looking. It didn't pop up as windmill, but it might be listed as something else in the search. Kind of like garbage truck. Some you might have to search for rubbish. Others you might have to search for garbage or sanitation. It all depends on what the terminology is. Back to the rendering, what file format options do you have when you export? I didn't look, so I'm going to plead ignorance on that again. And then AVI file name, yep, so it's going to export out an AVI file. So, not MP4 or WMV, but an AVI, so you have something at least. Does this work in Revit? Right now, it is currently, I believe, just the AutoCAD platform. I haven't heard any talk of it going to be useful in Revit. It needs that Autodesk AutoCAD platform right now, and Revit is a totally different platform. So right now, no, but that doesn't mean that in the near future it won't be available.